In the quiet, clinical corners of mortuaries across the world, some stories never make it to the surface. Told in hushed tones, remembered only by those who dare to prepare the dead, these are the encounters that defy logic, experiences hidden behind stainless steel doors and under cold fluorescent lights. Tonight, you'll hear true tales from the ones who work closest to death. Morticians who've seen things the living should never witness. Welcome to Terrifying True Stories from the embalming rooms. My name is Thomas Reed. I've worked at the Clements County Morgue in Pennsylvania for nearly 22 years. During that time, I've handled thousands of bodies. Young, old, accident victims, cancer, suicides, homicides. Every kind of death has passed through my hands, and maybe because of that, I've learned not to dwell on anything that defies logic. But Drawer 12 is different. I've never told anyone about it, not because I'm afraid they won't believe me, but because I'm afraid they will. Drawer 12 is one of our standard cold storage units. Stainless steel sliding door, digital temperature display, nothing out of the ordinary. But since 2018, no one here wants to leave a body in that drawer overnight. It started with a woman named Eleanor Fitch, 41 years old, internal bleeding after a car crash near the I-80. Her body arrived on the evening of February 14th, Valentine's Day. Stable condition, no major trauma. Just needed to stay cold until the morning autopsy. I remember it clearly. I was the one on shift. I placed her into Drawer 12 around 8:15 p.m., sealed the latch, logged it, and went back to clean up. Around 11 p.m. I heard it, click, the unmistakable sound of a metal latch popping open. I returned to the cold room. All the lights were on. Nothing seemed out of place until I saw it. Drawer 12, wide open, empty. Eleanor's body was halfway out, head and shoulders slumped over the lower lip. I froze for a few seconds. No one else could have entered. The keys were with me. And if I hadn't opened it, how? I pushed the body back in, checked the limbs, no signs of disturbance. Maybe I hadn't pushed it in all the way. That was unlikely. I'm meticulous, always have been. I resealed the drawer, taped a label across the handle just in case, and told myself I was imagining things. At 2:00 a.m., the alarm went off. This time, drawers 11, 12, and 13 were all open, but only one body had been pulled out. Eleanor Fitch again. This time, she was on the floor, face down, arms spread wide like she'd fallen from the slab. I swear to God, there were no footprints, no drag marks, no blood, nothing. I placed her back inside. Didn't call the police, didn't inform the coroner. I just filed it under equipment malfunction and left it at that. But that was just the beginning. 3 weeks later, we received another body. Michael Downing, 37, suicide by sleeping pills. No next of kin. No special requests. Just waiting for paperwork before cremation. Once again, I placed him in drawer 12. I didn't think twice. At 3:17 a.m., the security footage recorded something strange. The image flickered, dim, distorted. And in the next few frames, Michael's body appeared to sit up. Not a jolt, not a horror movie jump scare. It was as if something had gently lifted his torso, tilted him slightly, head lolling to the side, then slumped back down. When I checked the drawer, I found a fresh, brownish smear along the inner wall, like it had been scratched with fingernails. Still damp, not frozen. I brought it to our morgue director, Mr. Hannigan. He laughed, told me I was sleep-deprived. I showed him the footage. He went quiet for a moment, then deleted the file right in front of me. "I don't want trouble, Reed," he said, "and you don't either. I got the message. I tried to forget. Really, I did. But every body we stored in drawer 12 afterward left behind something strange. A college student, motorcycle accident. When we opened the drawer for the autopsy, both of his eyelids had been sewn shut. Black thread. No one on staff had done it, and there was no reason to. A 50-year-old mother, liver cancer. After one night in drawer 12, someone found her mouth packed with soil, real dirt, bits of dry grass. Smelled old, like it came from a grave. We stopped using the drawer unless we had no choice. And when we did, I'd light a candle in the break room. Not out of superstition, just to feel like something else was watching over us. Then came last October, the case that broke me. An 8-year-old boy, Eli, murdered by his stepfather. Police found him in a basement, wrapped in a red blanket, bruises everywhere. That night, I was on shift. The morgue was full. Drawer 12 was the only one left. I hesitated a long time, but in the end, I slid him inside. I placed a small photo, Eli with his mom, on his chest. At 2:44 a.m., I woke up to the sound of a child laughing. Not loud, a giggle, faint, like it was running down the hallway. I checked the cameras. Nothing, except the lights in the cold room were flickering. I went in. Drawer 12, wide open. Eli was still there, but something was different. He was holding a toy police car, bright blue, plastic, cheap. It wasn't listed in his belongings. No one had seen it during intake, but it was clutched in his tiny hand so tight it took me minutes to pry it loose. I was ready to leave when I heard it. A whisper, not a voice, not clearly, more like wind through floorboards. But it said unmistakably, "You won't leave me in the dark, will you?" I quit a month later. No notice, no interviews. I disappeared from the world of mortuaries thinking it was over. But 3 weeks ago, I got a package. No sender. Inside, just a USB drive and a note. Drawer 12 is active again. We need you. I didn't want to know. I didn't want to watch. But I did. The video was dated June 17th, nighttime. Footage from the cold room. Drawer 12 lit up. Its door opened on its own. For a few flickering seconds, I saw something emerge. Not a body. Not a corpse. Something black, covered in slashes. Its face looked sliced, jagged and uneven, its head tilted, its mouth open in a silent scream. It didn't crawl. It stood up, then turned to face the camera, and vanished. I haven't slept since. Every time I close my eyes, I see flickering lights. I hear the metal doors slide open. I see Eli's face, no longer in pain, just waiting for someone to bring him back into the light. And I remember every person who ever laid in that drawer. Not all of them went quietly. Some are still there. That's why I'm writing this. Not to scare anyone, not to tell a ghost story, but to remind you some places, no matter how clean, how sterile, how secured, hold things that don't belong to this world. If you ever work in this line of business, and one day you're told to place someone into drawer 12, please, don't leave them there overnight. My name is Jonathan Blake. I'm 46. I own and operate Blake & Sons Funeral Home, a small mortuary tucked behind a moss-covered church on the edge of Brattleboro, Vermont. Despite the name, there are no sons involved. My boy Charlie drowned when he was 8. My wife left me a year later. Since then, it's just been me and the dead. I don't tell you this for sympathy. I tell you because what I'm about to share demands that you understand I am not someone easily rattled. I've cleaned bodies so decomposed they fell apart like wet paper. I've stitched together faces blown open by shotguns. I've stood in empty chapels, whispering apologies to souls who never had anyone to mourn them. But I wasn't ready for Margaret Fielding. She arrived on a Thursday, around 6:30 p.m. The county coroner's van pulled up out front just as the last light dipped behind the trees. Her paperwork was ordinary enough. Margaret Louise Fielding, 33 years old, official cause of death, brain aneurysm, died in her apartment. No foul play suspected, no trauma. Next of kin, younger sister, Emma Fielding. Emma had requested a traditional washing and dressing, no embalming. Per her spiritual beliefs, she'd said over the phone. She sounded composed, calm. I made a note of it and assured her I'd honor every request. I'd done dozens of ritual washings before, it was nothing new. But the moment I unzipped the bag, I felt something twist in my gut. Margaret was beautiful, strikingly so. Not in a glamorous magazine way, but in a deeply unsettling way, like a wax sculpture made by someone who almost understood human anatomy. Her skin was flawless, smooth, tight, no discoloration, no rigor, no scent of decay. But her eyes, even though they were closed, I remember thinking those eyes didn't belong to a corpse. It's hard to explain, There was no tension, no struggle, but also no peace, just silence, like a doll waiting to blink. I began the washing that night. Warm water, herbal oil per request. I started with the forehead, gently wiping downward with a soaked cloth. Everything seemed normal until I reached the left shoulder. The cloth stuck, not like to dry blood or soap residue. It clung. When I pulled it back, I nearly dropped it. A layer of skin had come off with it, clean, whole, no blood, no tearing of muscle, just a long translucent peel like an old sunburn, but beneath it wasn't exposed tissue. It was another layer of skin, darker, rougher, with fine hairs. The pores looked wrong, too wide, too deep. And there was something else, a faint pattern, spiraling shapes, almost like scales, running just beneath the surface. I stared for a long time. Then I tested another area, her right arm, lightly. Same thing. Skin lifting like cling film, revealing something underneath that wasn't human flesh. I didn't sleep that night. At 10:17 p.m., I called Emma. She arrived less than 30 minutes later wearing a long gray coat, face pale and drawn. She didn't ask how I was, didn't even look at her sister's body. "You touched her," she said softly. I nodded, unsure what to say. Emma walked to the table and gently placed her hand on Margaret's cold cheek. "I asked you not to disturb the skin." I swallowed. What exactly am I dealing with? She hesitated, then looked up at me. And when she spoke again, her voice wasn't angry. It was tired. "That isn't Margaret," she said. "It hasn't been Margaret for a long time." She told me a story I still haven't made peace with. When Margaret was 17, she disappeared for 3 days during a hiking trip in the Green Mountains. They found her unconscious, curled up naked in a dry creek bed, skin scraped raw like she'd shed layers running through the woods. She never spoke about what happened, not even to Emma. But after that day, things changed. Margaret stopped eating meat. Then she stopped eating altogether for stretches, claiming she didn't feel hunger. Her skin started to heal too fast, Emma said. Cuts vanished overnight. Her nails grew brittle and translucent. Her hair darkened. She began talking in her sleep, in languages Emma didn't recognize. The worst part? She stopped aging. By the time she was 33, she looked 23. Perfect. Unchanged. "I thought it was trauma," Emma said. "I thought maybe she just broke inside. But the night before she died, she called me and said one thing." She turned to face me. "She said, Emma, it's wearing thin." I didn't know what to believe, but I knew this. The thing on my table wasn't normal, and something inside me, the same instinct that warned me when a casket's been sealed too fast, or when a body's been tampered with, told me that Margaret Fielding had worn a skin that wasn't hers. And now it was coming off. That night, I locked the prep room and stayed in the office. I couldn't bring myself to go home. Around 3:00 a.m., the hallway lights began to flicker. I told myself it was the circuit breakers. Then I heard something, not footsteps, not a voice. It was the sound of wet fabric being peeled, slowly, deliberately. I opened the prep room door. Margaret was sitting up, eyes still closed. Strips of skin had sloughed from her shoulders, curling on the floor like molted leather. Her hands were twitching. Something underneath the remaining skin was moving, shifting, writhing. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. I just watched. Then her eyes opened. They were black. Not void of color black. Reflective. Wet. Like something looking out from inside a hollowed shell. I slammed the door shut and barricaded it with the filing cabinet, called 911. By the time the sheriff arrived, the body was back on the table, lying peacefully, arms folded, skin intact. But her face was different. Not someone else. Not even unfamiliar, just wrong, a subtle rearrangement of the jawline, lips thinner, nose slightly off-center, like the memory of a face that had been worn too long and couldn't remember how it was supposed to go. The sheriff asked if I'd been drinking. I didn't argue. I just signed the release forms and watched them take her away for cremation. Emma never came back. The phone number disconnected the next day. I don't run Blake & Sons anymore. Some nights, I still wake up thinking I hear wet peeling in the hallway. And sometimes, only sometimes, I see a woman on the sidewalk across from my building. She never moves, never waves, but she watches. And I swear every time I look away and glance back, her face is just a little different.